are live. It looks like we are alive.
Hello, guys. How are you? Good day, good evening, wherever you're watching from.
Oh my goodness. It is finale weekend, and that's what we're going to start talking about. Not quite yet. It'll give folks a second to
Hmm.
come in, but I did have a question for you. While we're getting
Yes,
warmed
sir.
up. Saw on your channel, you're watching Dune. We talked about it a little bit offline. How's it
Hmm.
going? How's the book treating you? What are you thinking so far? Are you liking the experience?
So I knew about Dune for many, many years because Frank Herbert obviously tried last year. Believe it or not, I felt a little bit on the grindy side, and I come from a generation who read sci-fi books in the '90s, and still I was like, a little on the slow side. Let me put
Yeah.
it on the side now
Right.
because it
Right.
was definitely like you could feel the content is there. So I came into it today, like now, and saying, look, we saw the second trailer,
Yeah.
no procrastination. Let's read now. Now the second time around, dude. It's I expected it to be a lot more hardcore science fiction with like those
Right. Right. Right.
details and science behind it. It's actually a lot more adventure story, which I,
Really?
I like. Yeah, it's like with philosophy, of course, it's very layered, like with like cerebral stuff, but it's very much an adventure story, which I like.
I am so excited from the trailer, like you said. That second trailer, the first trailer I thought was good. I was like, okay, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's kind of teasing me here. But that
Hmm.
second trailer, like you said, it ratcheted up for me. I was like,
Hans
okay,
Zimmer
I've
all
got.
day.
He knows what he's doing. He
Oh
does.
yeah.
He knows what he's doing. I'm very excited for that, and I'll be curious. Are you going to make any content on it on the channel? Are you thinking about it, or?
That's actually interesting how to tie it in because it's a perfect material for Star Wars. Like every time you go and you comment as somebody's doing video, and the first thing they tell is like, hey, no, it's actually influenced, Star Wars. They want to point it out that it came before. And obviously, the moment we think about the first Star Wars movie in Tatooine, and then, of course, Episode 6, and all those barges flying around in
Yeah.
Jabba's palace, I'm like, that's Dune. So maybe what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking what I'll
Yeah.
do is I'll kind of like tie in the two books, the movie, the original Star Wars film, and the book thematically,
Oh,
and
okay.
make comparisons. How about you? Are you going to talk about it?
I am 100% gonna watch it. 100% gonna watch the movie. The question is, am I gonna read the book? And not yet. We'll
Not yet.
see.
Okay.
Just because of the I don't have the bandwidth at this moment to try to. I feel like to rush it in before the movie. If it's not
Gotcha.
delayed, hoping it's not delayed with the COVID craziness going on.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm so excited for it. I hadn't even considered reading the book. I had seen like going to the stores and stuff, the gorgeous covers, how iconic it is, and I thought,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna have to check this out. But we'll see. We shall see. Too many books to read. Too
Oh
many books
yeah,
to read. Too many
yeah.
books
I
to read.
just got plenty of books shipped to me today, like so many sci-fi box sets I'm picking up. It's too much.
It is. It is. It is. Hey Heather, good to see you. So, with the Dune out of the way, the big topic for this week, there's not much. Well, there is always stuff to talk about Star Wars, but the big thing I think on everyone's mind is the Bad Batch finale, part two of
Right.
the finale. It's really kind of a two-parter.
Hmm.
What are our predictions? What are our thoughts? Let's start with how'd you feel about episode one? If people haven't gone to your channel and checked out your review, what'd you think about episode part one of the finale? Not episode one, part one of the finale.
I enjoy them all. I go predicting and anticipating a show only as far as a talking piece for my channel, to be honest with you. I don't like to generally do it with any show. I like to absorb it as it comes along. So just before we started rolling this live stream, we spoke about, and you said how you think it was a pretty good pause for the season, and say like,
did,
okay,
yeah.
you could have finished it here and moved on. Me, I'm like, okay, so the question is, what else can we have in the season
Yeah.
to give it more finality than we already have? And I think, honestly, it's gonna revolve around Crosshair. And first, let me hear your thoughts. What,
Yeah.
what do you think? Where it's gonna go?
I thought the episode was extremely effective, as you kind of already alluded to. It. I'll tell you what did it for me, and everyone's talked about online. I see Blue Pig is in. Welcome, welcome. One thing that really hit me when watching when that was really how it felt like the close of an era, the end of an era, when they flashed through the hallways of Camino.
Yeah,
That hit me hard, and
Yeah.
it felt like kind of a closing of a chapter. And we won't try to spoil the whole thing. I mean, if you guys aren't caught up, I will try to not ruin it. But we knew this was going to happen, right? We know what
Yeah.
era this is in Star Wars, and to your point, I'm expecting the emotional payoff to be Crosshair Hunter related, right? And I think the big question on everyone's mind, we got season 2 announced. That's great. are they going to break our hearts early and kill off one of the members? Are they going to kill someone early? I think that's that's my burning question coming out. Yeah, like you, I'm not great at theorizing Star Wars. You know, I can have ideas like
Right.
I've been saying since we did our first discussion of the Bad Batch together right off the bat that Kamino was in trouble because the Empire wouldn't leave them on, you know, on loose ends is what I said.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not really, see, that's not like theorizing to me. That's just a general, you know, prediction.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do. Are people like, is Boba Fett going to come? You know, what's going to happen? To me, I'm just worried if they're going to kill someone this early on.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And it seems like they've set it up that way where we could see a character sacrifice himself. And I think it would hit, you know, I think it would provide some heartbreak. That's what
if I were to guess, well, first of all, let's see. Heather is saying that I think Rampart might send some forces to look for the Bad Batch, and they might look in the wreckage to leave no stone unturned. Yeah. That's pretty much the Empire. I agree there. But I would say Dave Filoni always plans his stories for the long run.
He does.
And I never saw a single episode that he worked on either on Rebels or on the Clone Wars where it was there for the shock value. Like, you know, the mini children's version of George Martin, you know, he never does that. I would feel that it's a little bit early for the end of the first season to let somebody go in terms of like forever as like mortality, somebody's killed. But I believe that, first of all, for Crosshair, there's no coming back to the Empire. They're not going to accept him back. They're like, you messed up once.
Yeah.
We're done professionally.
We know how Tarkin feels about clones. And same with, you know.
And it was a really wonderful scene in this episode where he was sort of back because they were forced to work together, but he really wasn't. And I really enjoyed that it honors this character and doesn't have him flip sides too quickly. So my only thought was, so the only way out for him is to run. And if he runs, how else can he, you know, make a living as a bounty hunter, as a mercenary? That would be interesting. In between, you know, he's like, like neither or. He might come back and help on a mission or something, but he's like, screw you guys, I'm not going to follow.
That would be fun, and they could almost have a story arc where they try to chase him to get him back on the team. You never know, like
yeah, it's a cool dynamic.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. To your point, Dave Filoni knows what he's doing, and you know, sometime on this channel, I'll be critical of people who treat Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau as like saviors, because I think that's kind of a weird. I don't think they think of themselves that way. I think they're just really talented guys who know what they're doing and love it. And look, guys, I mean, later, just a little preview for everyone who's here. A little later in the show, we're gonna go and take that same little movie quiz I took earlier on the week on my channel. We're gonna take it together and talk about that. But his work on the Clone Wars, you know, if you haven't, I just finished rewatching season 7 on Sunday. Talked about that on the channel, and it is so good. He does so much planning, so much attention to detail. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's just great stuff. So for me, I'm with you. I think it might be a little early to kill one of our heroes off. It might be a surprise. It would surprise if they did that. I'd be very surprised. And I'd be very sad because I feel like we're just getting into these characters. And I think Shadow Sentry, you know, watching Kamino get blown up was more emotional. I totally agree. It felt like the end of a chapter really was a tough. I just, the score in the show is so good as well. Like the way they're orchestrating the sound to really pull me into those moments. Just really effective stuff. I mean, animated Star Wars is just, it's top tier.
You know, just very quickly to add to what you're saying, I think it only testifies. It's a testament to powerful storytelling where it's not an action scene or even a character. You see this imagery, which is very iconic, the cloning facility where these clones dined. We saw the specific sets in the Clone Wars show. When a scene itself, the background, can become a character, you know what these people are doing to you. They're so clear in their intent, and they get it across so vividly. It's just wonderful stuff.
You and I,
it's Emmy Award winning, actually, like nominated. I'll be honest with you.
You and I said the same thing. Like, Kamino is a character in the Clone Wars to me. Like, and I said the exact same thing in my video. It's funny you use that same term. It's so effectively done. So the memories we have there, going back, you know, to the movies, but also that the whole 7 seasons of that show. It's really great stuff. It really did, and they've kept enough intrigue alive. There was a little bit of just like throwaway lines throughout the show. I'm starting to rewatch a Bad Batch right now, and There's a line, in the finale, for example, that we just talked about, where the little clone cadets, the little young clones, are like, "Hey, where are we going? Are we going to be soldiers?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course you are." That's where, like, what does that mean? Like, are they going to get killed off? Or are they actually going to become some new elite squad? There's a lot of places to go with the show, and I know some people. I think some people look at the last season of the Clone Wars, and certain arcs that really stick out to them, and they think like, oh, the Bad Batch isn't there yet. Well, it took the Clone Wars time to get there. Just don't forget
I felt
that.
the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars were on the slow side, and I was in the beginning actually a little bit irked that they were like recycling quotes from the original trilogy of films. I'm like, come on, it's a little bit on the nose. But then you understand when it's like a recurring theme and it's actually within absolutely like new context. It was cool. I actually wanted to ask you something about that small tiny detail in that last episode of the Bad Batch when we saw those clone cadets. Did their appearance trigger anything in you, like story-wise, the way they looked? And I'll remind you, they had those like a little bit of orange under their tunics, which I don't remember if we saw it ever in Clone Wars, but we saw it now.
What are you thinking? Give me your thoughts. What is the cosmetics there making you think?
X-wing pilot suits.
I'm
looking at this. I'm like, hold on a second. Like, obviously, lore-wise, we don't, right?
Like this. There we go.
Like lore-wise, we don't know if any of the clones that escaped from the Empire actually served on the rebellion. Aside from that one white beard person in Return of the Jedi that everybody wants to believe it's Rex. Yeah. Aside from that one, I was like, maybe perhaps some of these clones become the first cells of the rebellion, and the X-wing ones. That would be so fun, man.
Hey, speaking of the rebellion, this is from a website. I'm going to call this out. I love Star Wars merch. I could make an entire channel just reviewing the Star Wars stuff I buy. This is from a company called Corksicle. These are officially licensed Star Wars. They say Star Wars on the bottom, rubber bottom. And this is the Rebel one. If you look at the lid, it's not going to show up very well, but it's got the Rebel symbol embossed.
Yeah, I can see it
in here. And this is an amazing cooler. I'll have to put the link somewhere. It does not. It keeps everything cool. It doesn't condensate. They had a Boba Fett one that I got as well that I take to work with me. So shameless plug here. These are awesome for Star Wars fans. So. And they look like the Rebel. This is the Rebel pilot one. So,
are they sponsoring you yet?
Hey, Corksicle, follow me on YouTube. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Regardless what happens, we'll talk tomorrow. I'm sure we'll both have videos on our channel. I am excited that we have this. I think that's my biggest takeaway. We talked about this already. I love that we're getting more of these shows. Love that we're getting Visions in September. It is so exciting to me that I can still enjoy this animated world. And I'd love them to eventually explore a whole new era, whether that's the High Republic, the Old Republic, the in-between Republic. In animated, it's a really, really good route that they have at their disposal, and they are experts at the craft, the animation, the scoring, the stories. They are experts at it, so I love to see them continue with animated Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like ever since the Clone Wars dropped in 2008, and if I was displeased with any of the Star Wars content, it became like my sanctuary. And then Rebels came out, and to me, like, upped the ante, and the Bad Batch is doing it again. And it's honestly, to me, it has become the center of Star Wars. And I'm curious how else Disney can exploit that popularity of shows. I'm like, okay, so we have 3 CGI shows already. We have 1 live action show. What other medium can you throw to the table and popularize again? Because you just have that power. What if they drop like a traditional animated show? I just finished the He-Man 5-part animation. And dude, it threw me back to the 80s as a kid watching the original, because almost that show, for a couple of few CGI effects, few minor ones, is an entirely hand-drawn show, and it's such a homage and respect paid to the original, Saturday morning cartoons that we grew up on.
Yeah, well, it is amazing to me, the world we live in right now, where you can stream amazing content at your fingertips all the time, and companies like Disney can push out whatever they want. We are lucky, and you and I echo this kind of battle cry. It's never been better to be a fan of anything. Forget Star Wars. I mean, obviously Star Wars. It's better to ever be a Marvel fan, to be a DC fan. I mean, we have such an opportunity. We're so spoiled that people, I think, can forget.
Exactly.
You can forget, like, it wasn't that long ago that, we didn't have awesome superhero movies. We had really campy bad ones. We didn't have new Star Wars. And when this new Star Wars did come out in the prequels, that was its own controversial lightning rod, right?
Yeah.
And we have new shows, we have new books, we have new comics. It's an awesome place, awesome time. So I'm excited for this finale, and I'm excited for the continuation of the show. I hope it carries momentum with Dave Filoni behind it. I trust him.
He could do no wrong.
I trust him. I trust him to do it. Okay, that's story number one. Just kind of, I think, something that's on all of our minds. Now, we got to talk a little bit. Let's go ahead. Let's get the screen share up. Give me just a second. I did see a comment, I think from Blue Pig, asking me if they had, let's see here, if they had an Imperial version of the drink, and they absolutely do. I gotta get sponsored by some of these, because I am shilling Star Wars products all the time.
Be a shill all day, man.
They have Stormtrooper. They have Darth Vader. They have the Boba Fett one, which I really like. I have the tumbler I take to work with my coffee. They have C-3PO, which is really fun. They have R2-D2 as well. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. That's
funny.
Gotta love it. Hey.
Yeah, I like the bottles. Those are cool.
Gotta love it. Okay, that's a shit. And they also have just cups. You can get just like little cups as well.
You're shilling on.
All right. Enough of that. Let's talk something kind of juicy. And I'd say juicy loosely. Taika Waititi. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he is confirmed to be directing a Star Wars show. We saw this during the D23 announcement.
Right.
He has said this week, an interview that came out today or yesterday, that they have the story. They have the story set out. They're still in the early stages, but they've got what they want to do ready to go. This weird Star Wars logo is the exact one they showed when they announced his involvement. It was him next to this logo. So this was kind of the concept art for his show they revealed. Now,
right. What do we know?
We don't know a lot. But what people are reacting to right now is that Taika has a very unique style, a very unique sense of humor. Let me give you guys, if you're not familiar with some of his work, he did Thor Ragnarok. He did Jojo Rabbit. He did What We Do in the Shadows, that vampire mockumentary, which is very funny. He also did the show, which is on FX, but the movie itself is really, really humorous. He does a really great job. He's been in, he was in the Suicide Squad in a very minor role recently. But he brings a sense of humor and a sense of fun. That's like what he's known for. He's basically a comedy director. And so when people see that he's directing a Star Wars movie, I've seen a lot of the reactions being like, what is he going to do? This is not going to feel like Star Wars. How is this going to work? And this comes down to, I think, a point you and I address a lot. And I'll set you up here for the Passover. I'm okay with them doing experimental things in Star Wars because I think there's a lot of opportunity when you expand, when you give people, like visions, when you give people, something they excel at and you let them tell a story, a Star Wars story. I'm down for it. I'd love to see someone give a shot. How do you feel? I mean, are you concerned about this? Are you kind of a Star Wars purist in the sense that you don't want that kind of experimentation, or is this right up your alley?
Yeah, I'm never a purist. And I think even if you have a director who didn't deliver before in a Star Wars project, could possibly do the next one. If J.J. Abrams made The Force Awakens the way it is, and it's not only his accomplishment or fault, either way you look at it. It's the nature of the creative process is, we always attach the name of the director like he's the holy grail of the film. And it's not true at all. There's so many moving pieces. It's almost like preparing for battle. You could have your script, you have almost like a battle strategy, but the moment you go to war, all of your strategy is out the window and you have to improvise. That's what filmmaking is. And, people don't give credit enough for JJ, who didn't want to use the previous script, and he had to rewrite his own script in 4-month period and start shooting. Yeah. And with that crazy Disney 2-year gap that they gave him to produce the film. Anyway, the point is, it's very, very challenging. So this director now is, pronounce his name for me again, please. I always get
Taika Waititi. Yep.
Taika Waititi, yeah. handsome young man. He's very prominent in Hollywood. He's doing stuff. So what? I wasn't a big fan of his Thor Ragnarok. It was absolutely stylized. It was absolutely something was going for it. And I wasn't one of the fans who were saying it's a bad film. I was saying, I'm not vibing with it.
Not for me.
And I'm the kind of person who also comes from the creative field. I have a BA degree in animation. You understand that a single project or even a set of a few projects define a director. And I'm always willing to give him or anyone else the benefit of the doubt, because you have to understand that each and every new project is a whole new thing. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. You and I often talk about the prequels, and it's the same creator as George Lucas. And my argument is love or hate prequels, George Lucas wasn't the same person who made prequels. He was different. He has evolved. He had different ideas. He was more influenced by the Judeo-Christian mythology. We all changed. That's the point. And so does our work. So with him going from Thor Ragnarok to this, I don't even expect it to be similar. I expect it to have his signature style. But you know what? I strongly believe if a director can do comedy, they can do everything else, because comedy is the hardest possible genre you could work with. And if you can kick ass and write the hell of a script in comedy, you can take and approach a more serious project and still, knock it out of the park. That's my thought.
At the end of the day, and I see some of the chat is talking about this now, people do love to complain in any fandom, whether it's if there's passionate people, there's a lot of mixed ideas, and that means there's a lot of crosstalk and debate. It's just part of the environment. And with the internet, we have the ability to express those opinions. You and I are on here expressing a positive view. That means anyone can come out and express negative views about anything we like. At the end of the day, I like to at least, I think, be considerate to the creators. I don't like to really attack anyone. There's been some projects I really haven't liked, but I understand that it's people's time and money and passion being poured into those. And I think you said it right. Even if it's not for you, it didn't click for you, doesn't mean that it's bad. Well, maybe it is bad to you, but it doesn't mean this person's evil or they hate you or they hate Star Wars or they hate Marvel. It's just they have a different idea of what's good than you.
Yeah, or what they like. Sometimes you watch a movie and you recognize that it's a strongly made film, but it's just not for you. For example, I'll give you one example. Scarface.
Okay.
I won't deny that it's immaculately made film.
A classic.
I can't watch it because the character, who is beautifully written and acted, pisses me off. And that's the reason. And I'm like, I can't watch it more than once in the blue, but I recognize it's a strong film.
Yep. It is. Look, at the end of the day, like what you like. We're big on that. And you have every right to defend what you like. I don't like to sound like, oh, you can't have a different opinion. Don't say your opinions. Of course, share your opinions. I think how we go about it, trying to be respectful, I think is something that we can lack. And I say we as me being part of it, we can lack in the fandom is that kind of consideration.
So I'm excited for it. And honestly, just looking at this logo, which I haven't seen before, we just spoke about an animated show.
It kind of looks like it, doesn't it?
Quite frankly, it does look like it's. If it's going to be an animated show, then oh boy, is he a perfect choice of what? Because when you do an animation, and this is what we were taught, one of the first things the professors teach you is that, look, if you can make a story live action, don't do it in animation. You should only approach a story in animation because you can't do it otherwise. Meaning, you have to be inflated somehow, either visually or narratively. It has to be grand in a specific animation sort of way. And boy, is he perfect for that.
This is the exact, just for the folks in the chat or yourself who hasn't seen it, during I believe it was the D23 or, whatever they did for COVID where they announced their upcoming projects. This was Kathleen Kennedy on the stage this is what they put behind her, Taika Waititi, in this pink and blue animated, looking like Schoolhouse Rock almost style animation. That's what we saw, and that's all we know. But it started, and I'm here for it. I love Star Wars, and I know some of it's Stone-ish logo. If it's an ancient story, that's a great idea. Maybe it will be like Star Wars way back when, and it'll be just goofy and fun, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And we've segued nicely into kind of the fun portion of it tonight. And I have a feeling this is going to be just a fun little thing for you and I to go through. For folks who did not see on my channel, I followed this link. It is down in the description. Okay, so if you're like, what are you looking at? This is a little quiz. And what it does is it compares the Star Wars movies side by side and has you pick which one did you like better. And that will supposedly at the end give you your rank of what your favorite Star Wars movies are. And I kind of wanted to take it and see, you know, in my head, I think I know what the order is. But when I like answer these questions, does it line up? And so I went through on my channel. If you guys haven't watched that, if you haven't taken the test, you can go along with us. I wanted to do this as a team, to talk about this, you know, not to convince each other, but to just see what we think as we go through these questions. I think it's gonna be fun, and I think chat's gonna have ideas as well. So, the first movie, you got to pick which one's better. Now, I said this in my video. Better and what do I like more are two different questions because there's technical filmmaking and there's movies I enjoyed more. Yeah, Blue Pig's got Phantom Menace at the top. So let's do Solo, Rise of Skywalker. People know mine if they've seen my channel. Let me start with you. When you see these two movies, which do you like better? Which are you watching tonight? You're sitting down watching a Star Wars movie. Which are you watching?
Solo.
That's what I picked. I think
It's evident. It's a more, well, it's, even if people say it's not fair to judge because obviously Rise of Skywalker is a part of a grander story.
Yeah.
Even within trilogies, films are supposed to have a self-contained beginning and an end and lead to something and have a logical enough conclusion. It's just the Rise of the Skywalker, even as a part of a trilogy, is just bogged down by too many things, too many ideas running in separate directions. And Solo feels like a compact piece of entertainment. You sit down, you watch it, you have a good time. Goodbye, see you. You know.
It does. I think you're dead on. I said the same thing. You said it in maybe a little better way than I did, but there's less baggage with Solo. I can just kind of enjoy Solo. And I said it in my video. I want to make this totally clear. You guys know us. Like whatever you like on these movies. We're not telling you guys are dumb or whatever. This is just personal opinion. There are moments of The Rise of Skywalker I really enjoy.
Same here, yeah.
I just don't typically feel like rewatching it. That's all. You know, so if you said, Josh, let's go to the theater right now, you got about, I'm picking Solo. Darth Maul, you know, being...
You know, I saw it twice, the Rise of the Skywalker, and
me too.
Surprisingly, I actually liked it more in the second watch. And I'll probably see it again a couple of times. I do enjoy that movie, but I do recognize that it's definitely flawed.
I see every big movie I like twice in theaters. So I saw Rise of Skywalker twice in theaters, you know, all of them. And it matters so much on like the theater who you're with. Sometimes if you're at a group who like, you kind of vibe off them. You're like, If you go with fans who are like, then you kind of can feed off that too. Mm-hmm. Well, we're picking Solo then because we both agree. There's no disagreement here. Okay, now this one I think we might disagree on. I don't know. But I will tell you, I personally love Rogue One. I think Rogue One, and I think part of it is expectations. When they announced Rogue One, I was like, I don't care about this movie. Like, who's gonna... like, that's kind of how I feel about the Andor show. I'm like, nah, like, I don't need to see this. This isn't very interesting to me. You know? And then I went to that movie, and I thought it just hit it out of the park. In a unique story that felt Star Wars, like a war movie that still felt like I was in the Star Wars universe. It has iconic moments, rewatchable moments, like the hallway scene with Vader. I mean, you could turn it on just for that scene, you know, for just a couple minute high, like woo.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a home run. So I pick Rogue One in this situation. Yourself, go for it.
You know, when
The Last Jedi.
It was announced first, nobody wanted or asked for Saving Private Rogue One, but you know, people ended up responding to it in a great way. But for me, it was an absolute visual spectacle with the absolutely best aerial, like space combat we ever saw since Episode 6. It was phenomenal. But to me, that movie severely lacked in one component, and it was that I could not emotionally attach to a single character. The story was intelligent on the paper. The script was tight. It had a beginning, middle, and an end. But I could not resonate with any single character. And to me, and even the Oscar-winning performance, you know, the actress that they hired, because it speaks of the director, Gareth Edwards. I believe he shoots 2-hour-long TV commercials. He's not a visual storyteller. For me personally, The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie since The Return of the Jedi. I love that movie. I wish it was better. It's not a flawless film by any means. There's a couple of flaws.
None of them are.
And even from my taste, I felt it subverted a little too much expectations. Like he was dialing that little gear too much.
Yeah.
But I still love it because my anchor, my doorway into Star Wars is Luke, and everything surrounding Luke and Rey and Ben, I loved in that movie.
I'll tell you,
definitely Last Jedi.
Well, I'll tell you, chat so far is agreeing with you pretty heavily. The Last Jedi is the favorite. You know, for me, you make a good point about Rogue One's characters. They aren't immediately. What I liked about them from a character perspective is the different types of characters I was exposed to. I really like what I liked about Rogue One. It's kind of like the best. It's like, you know, those episodes of Clone Wars. We'll use the Clone Wars as an example, where you're like, this is kind of a side quest. You know, I'm not really into it. This was like the best version of that. This is like a 2-hour, hey, this was a battle happening. And to me, that Darth Vader scene, and you might say, Josh, that's this one scene. Well, for people who don't know, to me, iconic moments in movies matter, because when you go back to the theater, you don't rewatch it for the couple lines. You watch it for those moments. You know, The Dark Knight, you can quote all the Joker lines, because every time he's on screen, it's iconic. And to me, that Vader scene, like you said, the aerial space battles, I just love to watch those again. And so I have such a fondness for experiencing that movie that kind of weighs into my decision, you know?
Very quickly on Rogue One, you know, the characters make sense.
They do.
But you don't feel for them.
I agree with that.
And Vader is Star Wars pornography, but it's a welcome one. Everybody knows why it's there.
That was fan service.
It was done in post-production. It was fan service. But who cares?
We needed to see
it. It's amazing.
we really needed to see that, because we had never seen Vader in his prime in live action. You know, we hear of him. I mean, I guess you could argue that he then fights Obi-Wan a couple, pretty quick after that scene. But we didn't see it with today's technology, like a Vader going down a hallway with the technology we have today, and just hey, people feared me for a reason. You know, people were afraid of this guy. It wasn't because he was, Anakin. He was a brutal combat tactician. It was just, love that scene. So we'll pick, I've taken the test. If you want to see my results and you haven't yet, you can go watch it on my channel. But we'll pick The Last Jedi for the chat and for Ben. So, okay, this one to me, if anyone watched my video, I'm picking Revenge of the Sith every time. Okay, so it's not even a question. But I'll let you give your thoughts. I'll be curious to hear what you think on this one.
Surprisingly, it's a bit tougher than I thought it would be. I just 2.5 seconds ago, I wanted automatically to call out The Force Awakens, because I believe it's a better crafted film. But with it comes also some criticism where it's very, very, very derivative. Where Revenge of the Sith, albeit being very, very flawed film, it tried to tell an original story. And there are some scenes in that film which I believe are very powerful. But for me, when you cherry pick scenes that are good in the film, when it does that, it indicates to you that the tapestry of the film, there's something wrong with it. There's some major, major problem going on. The Force Awakens, as derivative as it is, as grating and as annoying that little droid with secret information in the beginning of the film is, to me, it's a better flowing film. It's the better actor-directed film. It's overall, I think it's a stronger package overall. I think if Revenge of the Sith would have been directed by a different filmmaker, and let's say, for argument's sake, Dave Filoni, who was able to fully flesh out George Lucas's idea, I would have easily voted for Revenge of the Sith, but I'm going to go with The Force Awakens.
So we love on this channel having different opinions. You know, sometimes Star Wars timeline is just completely wrong, and we have them on here anyway because we like to. So The Force Awakens is actually my highest scored prequel when I did this test the first time. I actually am someone who really liked The Force Awakens. I left that theater hyped up. I was pumped up. I went back the next day. I saw it again with a different group of friends because I was like, man, I'm back. Revenge of the Sith to me, and it is the best Star Wars movie. It's my favorite. but I watched it on Sunday. I talked about this on the channel as well. I watched the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars mixed with Revenge of the Sith, and it's just so good. Like, it is the ultimate Star Wars experience to me. The punch at the end, like the gut punch of the 7 seasons with those characters and the 2 movies, and then to end in the way it does, that to me is like top Star Wars experience just for me. So Revenge of the Sith is just number 1. But I do agree. I am including the Clone Wars. I am including the Clone Wars.
You're cheating.
It doesn't matter though, because Revenge of the Sith, and we've talked about this a lot. If you haven't, and this is a good little reminder, we've done several podcasts with the prequel over on Star Wars Timeline's channel, and we're going to record another one here pretty soon about Revenge of the Sith. And so we're
going to go full in.
Exactly.
We want to talk about the details of the combat scenes. And actually, I think I'm going to take your hint, Josh, and turn that podcast that we're going to do. Hopefully, we'll record this weekend. I'm going to turn it from actually talking just the battles in the Revenge of the Sith. Let's go ahead and talk about the entire movie because you're so passionate about it.
It's my favorite, and we'll talk about it in all the detail. So I won't spoil that here, but folks know it's my favorite, and a lot of it we've talked about in his past podcast. Where were you when you saw it? How old were you when you saw it? I was younger. It was in the theaters, and I love that movie. I love that experience. And we talked about it in one of the first podcasts we did together, where it was one of the first times I'd gone to the theater and saw the story about the fall of a hero rather than the happy ending, the rise of a hero. It was the end. And I remember leaving that theater just like, oh, bummer. You know, like,
what just happened?
It didn't work. Yeah. And it's like, of course we knew it was going to happen the whole time. But I think for me, it was such a different experience. I can't ever shake that feeling and my love for those actors and those characters. One thing I'll say to Blue Pig, how I did the 4-hour cut, I did do a bunch of breaks, and I don't know where you can get it illegally to download online. Otherwise, I kind of treat it like intermissions. And what's cool about, if you guys know what I'm talking about, go watch my video from Sunday where I talk about the Clone Wars plus Revenge of the Sith cut. Someone put together all the timestamps, and if you follow those timestamps in the Revenge of the Sith, when it does a scene transition is where you pause. So it literally feels like you transition into an episode of the Clone Wars and you transition. So they did a really good job on that. So if you want those timestamps, go check it out. For this, I think the chat agreed with me about Revenge of the Sith. I think Revenge of the Sith is the pick. So we're going to pick it as as a group. Revenge of the Sith is going to take one. This one to me was hard, and I don't think it is for many people. It was for me.
It's easy for me.
I love The Phantom Menace, and I really love Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones was the first Star Wars I saw in theaters. And I think that matters. Again, you know, I remember this. They had Go-Gurts with the lightsabers on them, and that commercial was them, Mace Windu and Anakin back to back in the in the not Camino, in the Geonosis pit. You know, so like I remember how hyped I was for that movie in theaters. I think Phantom Menace is a better movie though. I picked Phantom Menace. It has, I think, maybe the most iconic fight scene, one of the best. We've talked about this on our most recent podcast with Qui-Gon and Darth Maul. To me, it's Phantom Menace, and that's all I'm gonna say. What about you?
For me, this one is actually easy. It's definitely episode 2, and here's the thing: nobody was more excited than I am. A 19-year-old who lived for 19 years with the original Star Wars, and now going to see this one. And for those of you guys who weren't there in the theaters to see it in 1999, the hype for that movie was uncomparable. The sequels just do not compare how much hype there was. Not even Lord of the Rings trilogy was this much hyped as The Phantom Menace. It was literally insane. Grandmas here on the street, you would walk outside and random people were just talking about Star Wars. And the only saving grace about the episode 1 was Darth Maul for me. I came out of the theater trying to convince myself that I enjoyed it, and I didn't. Yeah, there you go. With episode 2, I had a lot less time convincing myself that I enjoyed it. There are things about it that I like, and one of them is actually very controversial, and you and I have talked about it on my podcast, that I didn't find the romance annoying or grating. I didn't find the language cheesy. I wasn't one of these snarky 13-year-olds like, hey my God, what is this, love story? I understood coming into this, like learning and studying Shakespeare, that it's a very romanticized and old and regal way of two teens who don't know what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and trying to put into words how they feel. Like, remember when Anakin goes like, hey, I'm in agony, I'm experiencing this, and I can't, he's like almost testing the ground for his own feelings, where he doesn't know what to feel, but he's explaining it to her. Remember?
I do. And we did, to your point, we did talk about this
right.
on your podcast. I think that is one of the much maligned or much mocked parts of the movie. And when you were talking about that, it made me think about a video we'll react to at the end here, a behind the scenes look. So continue.
And for that reason, for the awesome view of Coruscant, for that beautiful chase scene, right, of the assassin, and to me, the Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Jango Fett was just as iconic as the first duel in the original film. It was just so fun to watch a Jedi finally face somebody who's a non-Jedi, right? And Jango Fett was whooping that Jedi ass. I'm like, dude, this is new. This is fun. This is enjoyable. Again, there's plenty of things I don't like about it. I don't think any of the prequel films is particularly strong crafted film. Just from a completely non-attached point of view, I don't think they're very, very well crafted films, but with great ideas in them. And when you look at the episode 2, I felt that was a lot more easy to embrace, and I actually enjoyed it in theaters. I had fun. If for me, watching episode 1 was like from the first moments they started talking, I had this sinking feeling like in my gut. I'm like, oh my God, it can't get any more worse than this, right? And it would with each passing like half an hour. But with part 2, I'm like, oh, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like this character here. I enjoyed part 2 a lot.
So chat. First of all, you're talking to someone who loves all these movies, so you're speaking music to my ears. I actually really like Count Dooku's scene with Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones. It's short, but I thought sweet. I thought I wish people got more of those kind of scenes, but I loved when he was trying to interrogate Obi-Wan when he was, kind of. Yeah. I love those. Chat seemed kind of split. I don't know. Let's take a second here. Can we see Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones? I love both. I think Phantom Menace is a little bit better. And why chat is typing this? Let me say this. Phantom Menace was enhanced by, and so was Attack of the Clones. They were later enhanced by the Clone Wars that came after, as well as some of the books that came, Master Apprentice, etc. So
100%, yeah.
Just saying, just a thought there.
And also years of like observing them and living with these movies and reanalyzing them.
To me, I think it's going to be a 50-50. I saw a lot of people in my chat on the video itself had Attack of the Clones in very last place. A lot of people did. And I've heard people say that, and it's one I really liked. I mean, sometimes it's just silly fun, but I love the scene with the monsters in Geonosis. I think at the end of the day, I think we got to pick. I don't know. We'll pick Attack of the Clones because I've already picked Phantom Menace. We'll let you have. Oh, see Phantom Menace though. TPM. Phantom Menace it is. It wins. Sorry. Okay, this to me is an easy one. Now you might disagree. To me, this is an easy one. It's Empire Strikes Back. What's your pick?
This is the hardest pick for me because growing up with the original trilogy, like you grew up with the prequels, it's indistinguishable. It's one continuous story from episode 4 to episode 6. And as a kid, I never picked one. I never said, "Oh, I like this one the most," and everything else. And then you go to the to the street and bicker and argue with your best friends. I didn't do that. It's like the return. A lot of people, when they quote Empire Strikes Back, it feels almost like a lot of people are agreeable with what professional opinion is. But when you look at the Return of the Jedi, the last segment, the entire part from the point where Vader takes Luke to that throne room, and that entire scene and mood and emotions, just how people say the duel of the fates of Qui-Gon Jinn and Kenobi fighting over the fate of Anakin in that Senate room, in that Senate palace. Here it's Luke fighting for the fate of the entire galaxy, and it's his and his sister now who instantly becomes a huge element in that strife, right? Because Vader says, "Oh, so you have a sister." It's such an insanely powerful moment and visually just so striking. I can't honestly, in my hearts of hearts, I can't pick one. I love both equally. I think they're both exceptional films.
So chat is actually leaning Return of the Jedi at this point. Empire Strikes Back to me is the iconic Star Wars movie. It is Star Wars. Like when I think of iconic Star Wars, you think of The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, Luke, I am your father, which is misquoted, but that's like one of the most like, but it's not just that for me. I actually really loved, I always like when the bad guys have the upper hand because I love that feeling at the end. Like I can't wait to come back, and Empire gives me that. And so,
Josh, I'm gonna go with Return of the Jedi because in the end I felt that going back to Tatooine and jungle forest of the Endor, it as a kid it always felt more exotic. And as a kid you loved Ewoks. As an adult, I love Ewoks. It felt more exotic to me, so I'll go with that one.
It's a tough one, I think, for a lot of people. For me, I just love Empire. I think it's the best original trilogy. But we'll go with Return of the Jedi for chat and for Timeline himself. Off we go. Okay, I don't think this one's going to be very controversial. I think I'm not, as everyone knows, I'm very supportive of any sequels fan. Like I don't, I'm a prequels fan more than any of the other eras, and a lot of people would ridicule me there. So I'm not going to insult anyone, but A New Hope I think is just so iconic. It's the reason you and I are sitting here today.
Yeah.
Never knew each other before this. It's why this chat is here talking with us is because of A New Hope. And so on that kind of alone, it has like that special echelon that Rise of Skywalker definitely can't meet. That's simple. I don't know. Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I just want to say one thing in regards to the A New Hope, which not a lot of fans may know or they may not. There's a couple of Russian directors that work in Hollywood, and one of them is Tarkovsky. And Tarkovsky said in one of the Russian programs that I thought, he said about his years working in Hollywood in like 70s and 80s, and he said, look, well, when Star Wars, the original film, came out, an entire era of Hollywood filmmaking was over, and they stopped making mature films, and they started making kid films, movies for kids, simple films. And he was kind of like frowning down and bringing it down. And I said, well, you know what, screw you. First of all, nobody cares about the movies that you made. And second of all, the most memorable stories in and outside of film are the simple ones. They're the ones that throughout from the time period of cave people that sat down to tell stories by the fire, the simple stories are the most resonant ones. And A New Hope, it's not just the best Star Wars film, it's the true jewel of American filmmaking because it's so simple, because it's distilled all of these archetypes that are so vital in filmmaking on screen. And I would argue that on the grounds of technical filmmaking, I've dedicated 4 years studying this stuff. Maybe there's somebody in the room, who knows a hell of a lot more about filmmaking than I do. But when you look at that film, the framing, the pacing, the cuts, the angles, the sets, it is the immaculate Hollywood film. I mean, from the beginning to end, it's immaculate. Yes, you might say that, acting got better later on because, George Lucas didn't quite communicate to the original actors, how to act it out, and they improved only in the Empire. But from the standpoint of pointing the camera and shooting, A New Hope is unrivaled. And one thing I want to add, I know I'm like going a little bit off the tangent here, praising this movie, but it's the only Star Wars film that is made in the style of independent film. Everything else after that is Hollywood.
True.
This is a true independent film with a budget and scope of a Hollywood blockbuster.
Hey, as we said, and I just saw Ahsoka Tano herself in the chat now, is that, I like all Star Wars, and there's stuff to like about all of it. And I think, I saw Nick say earlier, A New Hope is too slow, and I have often felt that way, and that shows you the generation I'm from. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's like independent filmmaking in comparison to what it becomes.
Yeah.
But I have such an appreciation for what's come. And several people in chat actually said they preferred Rise of Skywalker. Hey, I'm not gonna, Rise of Skywalker's a lot of fun to watch. You can get some really cool. I love Palpatine's lightning.
It was hell of a ride.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm watching Indiana Jones on crack.
Kind of.
The biggest gripe was like it's happening too quick. Slow it down. I want to see more of it.
It did.
A lot of people are saying if it was 2 films split like the last Harry Potter, it would have been such a better experience.
It's probably true. but they got to keep the trilogy flow going. So, we'll pick A New Hope because, again, I think Timeline just gave a really good, passionate answer there. We'll pick it. Solo, A New Hope. I think A New Hope is going to win for most people. I think Solo is definitely a fun, like you said, concise ride. So if it's Saturday morning and you want to put something on while you're making breakfast or cleaning around the house, Solo might be just a good thing on in the background that moves. But I think A New Hope is kind of the answer here.
Can I say quickly something about Solo?
Yeah, go for it.
So if those of you guys in the room have read the Young Solo trilogy, and I spoke to a couple of like Star Wars Legends purists, like, well, Disney, they're changing everything. When you watch Solo and you go back and you read those Legends books, even though they changed the script, I could tell you 100% that Ron Howard and Lawrence Kasdan, when they were writing the script for this film, was actually inspired by the old school books. It feels like you're watching an old school Star Wars Legends book. That's awesome.
That's cool.
But of course, New Hope.
And you're a good source for that. Chad is pretty united on New Hope as well. Yeah. Hey, New Hope's, it is the first Star Wars. I mean, what are you going to say? Force Awakens, Rogue One. I think you and I might disagree here. I picked Rogue One. Again, I really enjoy Rogue One. I don't want to understand this. I really like The Force Awakens. In fact, my complaints with The Force Awakens are very minor. They're almost nitpicky. Like there's just some stuff I didn't love, but I left that theater like, it's a good time. Like that was a lot of fun. It's a New Hope, basically, but, different, and that's okay. It's Star Wars. It repeats itself sometimes, but to me, it's Rogue One. Again, I just really enjoy Rogue One. What about you?
Force Awakens.
Chat, I got to see your votes. I got to see your votes because I think I am, in my comments, people would put the list they did, and I was always so surprised to see where Rogue One sat on there. For some folks. I think for some folks it really worked, for some that didn't. The Force Awakens, to me, its strongest moments, I thought, was its sense of adventure. It had a real we're back, and I loved that. And I like so many things that set up that, there's a lot of people who really love the Force Awakens seems to be winning in the chat right now. There's a lot of people who really love The Last Jedi, like yourself. And for me, my biggest problem with The Last Jedi is all the ideas that I made up in my head leaving The Force Awakens didn't come true, and that ends up disappointing yourself, and that's only my fault. The directors never had those movies that I was making in my head, right. But you can't help it. Sometimes that you set up expectations for yourself that end up leading to disappointment. So I loved Force Awakens. It's my favorite of the sequel trilogy, but I still prefer Rogue One. Chat's kind of split. Love both of them. Force Awakens, Rogue One. We'll do The Force Awakens because it's really your kind of first pass, and people have seen me do what I love best. Okay, I know which. I picked The Force Awakens here, so this kind of segue perfectly. I think I know where you're going.
Last Jedi.
I think the chat's gonna agree with you as well. I think most people prefer The Last Jedi. Force Awakens. Last Jedi to me. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough about The Last Jedi that's really underrated is porgs. I love the porgs. I like them better. I like them better than the Ewoks. So for that alone,
wait, you like them better than Ewoks?
I do.
I don't think, guys. I don't think we'll be doing our Sunday podcast. It's been canceled.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. And the truth of it is I think Nick just kind of said it as well. The Force Awakens, I'd rather watch it today. Yeah. Some of these, it's like if I'm sitting down today and I just want to watch a movie, like The Force Awakens to me is just more fun. And you might say, oh well, fun movie. Hey, I love Revenge of the Sith, and that's like the least fun of the prequels. So it's just my favorite. Chat is pretty split. I'm seeing 3 and 2, and you said Last Jedi. So Last Jedi, it's gonna be
Last Jedi
because you are the guest.
It feels good to be a guest, actually. You know what? We should do it more often.
That's right. Hey, this is an easy one. I know we're going to disagree probably strongly here. Revenge of the Sith is so the right answer. It's going to pain me to not click it. But I already know you're picking The Last Jedi.
What's interesting is if I, as much as possible, there's no such thing as unbiased opinion. Everybody's biased. Our brains work in a way that we constantly judge everything every second. If I were try to extract how I personally feel them, again, just on the merits of the technicality of the, if you will, the mathematics of making a film, I would say that The Last Jedi is stronger because What really, really, really works against Revenge of the Sith is George Lucas not picking the right takes from the actors. It's just, I want to just point out this one scene when Anakin drops to a knee and he's now converting to Darth Vader, and when Palpatine is labeling him, you could feel between different shots his voice is differently modulated. In one, he's grating, he's really pulling at it. He's like, and we will have peace. And then in another shot, same actor is doing the exact same voice you remember from episode 6. I'm like, how can this be? It's definitely unintentional. It doesn't jive. It does, and the entire movie, it feels like, if you take a vinyl and you put it under the sun, it warps. And then if you put it there, and I'm just judging it based on the merits of line delivery, nothing else, only that. The Revenge of the Sith suffers greatly, and it's not a problem that The Last Jedi has. When the actors deliver their lines, even in, let's say, Haldo, that you don't like, when she's like scolding and talking down to like Poe as like the soccer mom, he's like, you're stupid. Like, the delivery comes through, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think, maybe objectively, you're probably saying the acting is better than The Last Jedi. That's probably true.
Not the acting.
The
delivery. Like, the delivery, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know if it's the script per se, but whatever the case may be.
Yeah, Revenge had great cast, man.
It did. Oh, yeah, it did. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I love that movie. We're going to pick The Last Jedi because, first of all, I think some of the chat agrees with you as well. Revenge of the Sith to me is just, it's top Star Wars. It is Star Wars. But it's your run through, so we're letting you pick it. If you want to see the correct run through, watch my video on Sunday. I showed you how to pick them every time. Last Jedi will pick. Empire Strikes Back, Attack of the Clones. I don't think this one's terribly controversial. It's Empire, right?
Yeah, it's Empire. That's pretty.
I like Attack of the Clones better than most. I think you like it, maybe.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll actually. I'm thinking about doing my marathon, and I'll be putting this one. I know that part 1 will be a grind for me again. I watch it solely because I have to, because it's a marathon. But part 2, I'll be like, ooh, let's have some fun.
So, there's some good moments in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
But Empire is
Empire.
The Empire. Okay, now this one, I know some folks in my chat picked episode 1. I know for a fact you're not going to. It is going to be The Empire Strikes Back for you. I think The Phantom Menace has gotten even better for me as I've gotten older. I think what doesn't work for The Phantom Menace is like the Gungan fight, the CGI, and that is really weak.
Yeah.
I think that's really the worst part to me of that movie. If you're able to overlook that, I do think there's... I think the... Oh, man, I was watching some behind-the-scenes videos last night, and I was watching behind-the-scenes of Ahsoka versus Darth Maul in Season 7, and how they had Ray Parker come back and do the mocap for... Oh, man, Darth Maul is just such a cool character, and that fight scene is great. We talked about the fight scenes in depth on Timeline's channel a couple weeks ago, so I don't have much more to add, but I think The Empire Strikes Back, for you, has got to be the pick, right?
Of course.
Got to be the pick. Rogue One, Rise of Skywalker. Now, this is interesting because I would clearly pick Rogue One here, but you weren't as big a fan.
One.
Okay. Rogue
One.
Solo or Rogue One? This is these are both like the side movies. These are outside of the main.
That's interesting.
So if you're sitting down tomorrow and you're watching one, which one are you more excited to watch?
Again, this is the second hardest pick in this test, because these two movies, I like to talk about them together because they complement each other perfectly. Solo had very decent, very admirable action, but nowhere near on the level of Rogue One. Rogue One had astounding action, but it had like flatline delivery. And Solo, I remember going into theaters, and I was happy that they picked this young actor who doesn't quite look like Harrison Ford. And I said, please, when the movie starts, don't mimic Harrison Ford. Give me your own delivery, honor the character, and don't try to do what Harrison Ford did, because nobody can do him. And the first 15 seconds, when you see him pop in that the key and start the engines and drive that hover car, I was sold. I'm like, this is Han Solo. This is the young, brash kid that I remember from the books, and I was sold right away. And it had the emotional component that Rogue One doesn't have. So, how do you balance the two? Like one has something that the other one should have had. You know what I mean? I would say overall, I would go with Solo because for me, in the end, it's not the action, but the heart and soul of the film that matters.
You know, it's funny. Chat is pretty split as well. I see Rogue One, Solo, Rogue One, Solos, and then yourself is Solo.
Yeah.
I prefer Rogue One. That's what I picked. To me, it feels like, and again, I think expectations matter as well. I think Rogue One, I just was like, whatever. And then I liked it so much. It's kind of like, if you expect this and you get this, it feels like you got that. If you expected this and you get this, it's like, oh yeah, So to me, Rogue One, it's Rogue One. But we'll pick Solo because it is the timeline playthrough. Let's keep going. This is an interesting one.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Force Awakens Solo. I know what I'm taking here. I'm taking the Force
Solo.
Awakens. You're taking Solo. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a more original film. Once again, it's tight. The characters are popping off with that Lando, with Han's love interest. Can I say that Woody Harrelson stole the freaking show in that movie? He just came in. I have a friend, Alex. He's a huge Sergio Leone and Westerner fan. And we were watching it in theaters. He's like, dude, I came and I watched that scene where he's like popping off that gun. He stole the freaking show.
Do you know who stole Solo?
What?
Darth Maul. No, I'm just kidding. Like almost, I went The Force Awakens again. I just was more excited watching Force Awakens. I really liked it. I really like that. Man, I think back to the scene I really love on the collapsing giant Death Star, Super Death Star in the snow. I love the rawness of that fight scene where they're just kind of hack and slashing. It wasn't very pretty, because it was like unrefined, and I thought it was really effective. And I left that scene like, it's cool. It's like different, it's different Star Wars. Solo's great. Just different. So we're going with Solo because it's the timeline walkthrough. But chat was pretty split. I think a little more Force Awakens though. Okay, this again for me it's a no-brainer, but for you, I think you're gonna probably go Solo as well. So, man, that is crazy.
It's a stronger film.
Our results are gonna look so different. It's gonna be pretty funny. It's gonna be pretty funny. Solo, it is. It's gonna be The Last Jedi for you, right?
The Last Jedi.
No question about it. And I think The Last Jedi, frustrations from fans aside, and I was one of them who didn't necessarily love it. I don't think you can fault The Last Jedi. Yeah, there are some things that maybe aren't executed perfectly, but I do think it's a pretty solid movie regardless of like your love for it.
It is.
It's like
a solid film. And every time you want to criticize sequels, which you feel free to do that, please come back for a second to the original trilogy and take a closer look at the second Death Star and tell me how it's intentional and not lack of ideas.
That's true. Oh yeah, the prequels as well, which are the best movies there are. So problems with all of them, but we love them. New Hope, Last Jedi. For me, it's not that hard. For you, I think you like both these movies a lot, but I imagine New Hope.
As much as I enjoyed The Last Jedi, I would say that none of the sequels reached that high benchmark of the originals. So it's a New Hope.
And Blue Pig said something that I agree with.
Solo got hate running off it.
Yeah, it did. Solo did get kind of did get hate because of where it came out. That's why no one saw it in comparison to the others. So Blue Pig said Solo's gonna be number one for Star Wars timeline. It might. He picked it over. He picked it over quite a few. Now remember, this quiz might be wrong. It's one of the reasons we're taking it is to have fun with it.
Yeah.
We're going with the New Hope here. Am I correct?
Spending a good time here. Yeah, the New Hope and just having a chat.
Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker. It's got to be Attack of the Clones, right?
Yeah, I think I would go. That's a tough one again. Both flawed movies, both have interesting things going on for them. Man, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Rise, honestly, on this one.
Oh,
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Rise because Attack is there's things that I've watched now, and I was 19. Again, it's the younger myself.
Where you were,
and there is nostalgia still. You go back to it and you see that. I love that chase scene with like Anakin, especially when they get into Cantina and you see like these neon lights everywhere. And the first moment he runs into Padme's sleeping chambers and he's like killing all those poisonous bugs.
Yeah.
And stuff. There's just so much nostalgic cool things about it. Like,
you're preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir. I loved Attack of the Clones. I
Yeah,
love those bugs,
it's a
man.
fun film.
I love that. It's great.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker.
I
for
couldn't
timeline.
stand Mace Windu casting the Sam Jackson because he was such a established
Yeah.
role in there. But
He
whatever.
was.
Just
A lot
talking
of people
crap.
put Attack of the Clones at the very bottom and went in my comment section. So, Rise of Skywalker for Mr. Timeline. It is
Thank you.
so.
Rise.
Poor Darth Maul, guys. Rip
Yeah,
for Darth Maul.
I'm
Put
sorry,
Rip in
man.
chat,
I'm sorry.
please.
Look, when you dominate the battle, right, and then they give the victory to the good guy because he's good, because like what happened, I don't know if you've ever seen, I made a meme called The High Ground where Obi-Wan Kenobi is hanging there and Darth Maul is saying, look, I have the high ground, Kenobi, don't jump. And he jumps and I cut Obi-Wan Kenobi in half and drop him right into that shaft, because like by the logic of the film, you should die, boy. Like it's you ain't coming out of it, man. You're done.
Darth Maul, Darth Maul, to your point, losing to Obi-Wan. Some people, they talk about
he got rickrolled
against Ahsoka. Yeah. That he basically won that fight but got overconfident. That's why I ended up losing at the end. Is because he was like, he that's kind of the dark side for you, right? So maybe a little of that happened in that fight. That's how we can explain it. Mr. Timeline picking Rise of Skywalker. He is incorrect, but he's picking it nonetheless. Right. We're coming pretty close. That's correct. It's got to be Empire, though.
Yeah,
easily.
Empire.
Easily.
Yeah, that's easy. Empire.
We are coming to the very close to the end. I think we're gonna have a trilogy, an original trilogy dominated top for you, is what I would expect.
Empire.
Mine order was not like this, so I think it's because you answer different than me. It looks like because I didn't get Empire as many times.
A New Hope.
Okay, our list in extremely small text, and I think this is probably exactly what you thought. This kind of nailed your top four. I think. I'm guessing you'll have to tell me. A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi. Are those your top four?
Yes, they are. Wow, this test nails it. What?
It nailed your top four.
It nailed top four. Nailed it.
Now let me ask you: is Solo your fifth? Because it then goes Solo, Revenge of the Sith, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Rise of Skywalker, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, it is.
It's
4 is correct.
Yeah.
Solo is correct. Yeah.
So, it's and what's funny is when I took the test, if you would have asked me to write down on paper, I might have thought I would have done a little different. But then when I did the test, I was like, no, when I put them side by side, you actually have to think about it a little bit. So these are Star Wars timelines. Go take it yourself. I know a lot of you have. Go check out my video from Sunday. It is fun, and I think it was fun to talk to someone about it.
It was cool, man. It was enjoyable. Not what I expected it to be.
Totally different than mine. Completely different than mine. I had number 1, Revenge of the Sith, number 2, Rogue One, and those two are towards the bottom half of your list altogether.
Well, from 6 to 11, actually, it's very wrong. But from 1 to 5, it's good.
Where do you flip it in 6 through 11? Let's end
from
there.
6 to 11, so it's Solo, and then number 6 is Rogue One.
Okay.
And then it's The Force Awakens.
Okay.
And then it's The Rise of the Skywalker.
Okay.
And then it's Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, and on the bottom is The Phantom Menace.
So you do reverse release order. So you're like Revenge of the Sith, Attack of there you go.
Yeah. Out of the prequels, they definitely each one got better and better.
They did. I agree with that. Except for I like the Phantom Menace a little better. I think Phantom Menace just aged better for me. Like I didn't like Phantom Menace as much the first time I saw it, besides like the, but I like it more and more. Guys, thanks for taking the test with us. I thought that'd be a fun it was kind of a slower news week. We got the Bad Batch tomorrow. That's really going to wrap it up for the season 1. Thanks for taking this test with us. And now look at the ads Google's recommended me. It's Corksicle. Go pick up your Star Wars. Go pick up your Star Wars drinking apparatus, so you too can let the Force be with you when it comes to drinking.
That's right.
That's all I had to talk about tonight, Timeline. Let's pass it over to you. What's going on in your channel? What's going on in your world? Anything that you have to say before we get us signed out here?
Well, guys, no, not really. It's, I'm reading now a couple of books at the same time. I sort of wanted to jump on the High Republic out of the shadows, and because they do that hype and do a review for the channel. But I realized sometimes it's good to take a moment and take a step back and not rush things into, because sometimes what you do is you burn yourself out and you oversaturate yourself with so much Star Wars that it really becomes not fun anymore. And I said, well, you know what? What's the good way to hit pause? And to be honest with you, you and I, we talked about reading Star Wars books, right? You're coming into it and you're enjoying this stuff. I've been doing it for 20 years. And there comes a point where, like 5 books after, you need to plug something else in, because you need to have a point of reference what science fiction and fantasy is all about. And a lot of readers that I talk about, all they know is Star Wars. They will check out a show like, The Expanse and, the BSG and the newer Star Trek shows. That's all good, but you got to hit literature, because nothing else can supplement it. They're kind of like the cerebral dialogues you could have, the philosophy, exactly what's going on with Dune. And it's really tough to talk to people with, because I think some of the particular anger comes from the point where people are so fervent and like so protective over their Star Wars, because that's all they know. And as you asked me earlier, like as we started the live stream, what am I doing right now? I said, I'm going to read some Dune and I'm going to enjoy it. And I think for me and you, for us both, beginner YouTubers, it's a good practice to say like, well, you know what? Let me not follow the hype. Everybody's reviewing this High Republic book. So what? Let me read it on my own time, come back to the channel and review it in a way that is enjoyable to everyone,
At the end of the day, you're dead on. It's great to have other books. I would recommend for folks who, now that the High Republic, I did finish Out of the Shadows myself this week. So for folks who might be taking a break, the Stormlight Archive fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson. We are 4 books in, and there's the other side books as well. He tells a great story. Go get A Way of Kings if you're a big book fan. Get on Audible. They have amazing audio performances for all those books. It's a married couple who does the male and female parts, and they've done them for all the books. They knock it out of the park. It's like an audio experience, I would say. So that's my recommendation if you need a break from Star Wars. I will end us with this. A tweet from some of the showrunners just dropped. I'm going to read it out here. He said, hey, we're about to close the curtains on the Bad Batch. He said, I bet you're wondering what nugget of info I have to share with you. So here you go. Turn off all the lights when you watch the episode. Trust me. And crank up the volume. So proud of the team. So I'm guessing it's going to get emotional. You need all those lights off. Who knows? Until then, thank you guys for stopping by. Go check out Star Wars Timeline channel. I'm sure most of you already subscribed. We're going to be doing another podcast here soon on the prequels. And check out Bad Batch reviews tomorrow. Let us know if you guys like the new episode. We appreciate you guys in chat interacting. It's always a lot of fun for us to talk to some of our fans and fellow Star Wars enthusiasts. So
thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week. It was fun.
That's it. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you again